All right, guys, here we are. The map is going to be Ohana from the ESV map-making team, and in the upper left part of it, in the purple from the team Complexity, we have QXC, our North American Terran player, and another North American Terran player in the bottom right. From the team It's GoSu, it is DDE. Now, QXC, I just actually spoke to him just the other day, and he's actually got a new practice schedule that he's kind of adhering to. He just got done with school. He's got a lot more time to play now, and he's a player that has just a ton of potential, too. So I'm hoping we're going to see really good things out of him in the future here as well. Maybe not so much against my teammate right now in this game, but in the future, I hope we see good things out of QXC. Yeah.
Well, DDE, good guy, a guy who has a lot of potential in the game as well. Certainly a talented player. Still the most awkward interview I've ever given my entire life. So, have you still seen that?
I don't know if I ever have. Now, actually, I don't know if I have.
DDE is to give background to what I'm saying right now. DDE is a great guy. He's a wonderful person to be around, and certainly an incredible player. He certainly gave some interesting interview answers, though. A few pauses, just what looked a little uncomfortable while on camera. It happens to some people, you know. Certainly,
and identifying immediately the person causing the lag, that is impressive.
Well done, QXC.
Yeah.
But so our editor Rudy actually put together a video that shows me asking DDE a number of questions, and he edited it such that it's only DDE's pauses and ums. So he's like, so I'm like, so DDE, what do you plan to do if gaming doesn't work out as a career? And DDE's just like, yeah. And I'm just kind of shaking my head along with it. Okay. And he's like, yeah.
I'll have to watch that at some point.
That's pretty funny. We should release that, actually, to the public.
We'll see. There's a purple SCV coming down the map. It belongs to QXC. QXC is doing some scouting here. QXC tends to be a very aggressive Terran player, but the map is a little bit of a larger map. You still can be somewhat aggressive on this, but overall it kind of entices players to go for a little bit longer of a game. We'll see, though. I mean, QXC famously saying if you're not attacking, you're losing, so... I don't know, man. I mean, he better start attacking soon, otherwise he's going to look like he's losing. You don't want that, right?
Well, market differences in the two players' builds already. QXC choosing to throw down a second supply depot and wall off before ever putting up his command center. Of course, this does delay it by 15 seconds, give or take. So his command center comes about 15 seconds later than his opponent, but both players are favoring that one rack's gasless fast expand.
Yep, pretty much. A little bit different variation, like you said there. And the SCV... barely getting away. Wow. That SCV just putting the NOS in the jetpacks for a moment, barely able to escape the Marine of QXC. So he will live to scout another day or maybe even build a building if he's lucky enough. Now, if we talk about DDE a little bit, like you mentioned earlier, a very talented Terran player, amazing macro, just very, very good mechanics all around, and very creative, too. You know, he's one of the guys that likes to be all over the map. He likes to kind of look at the game situation and then make decisions kind of based on that. He's not the type of player that just is like, I'm going to do this build order, this map. I don't know why I can't talk today.
That's okay. English language is difficult.
It is, apparently. He likes to respond to kind of what he sees, and he's got the multitasking to be able to really play like that. So hopefully he'll be able to do that.
And, so you can see the difference in the two builds so far as both players did decide to go for 2 more racks after the expansion, then went up to double gas afterwards. But really, DDE is down 2 supply right now, 1 SCV, 1 Marine, and that's what putting up that later supply depot will do to you. But that's really the only difference. You are able to establish that orbital commando quite a bit quicker, as we see about 15 seconds ahead. So that's where he'll make up a little bit of that money. But it's just kind of a cool thing to see the small differences in the mirror matchup builds.
Yeah, for sure. And if you don't look at those, you're just going to be talking about, I don't know, Marines running around almost killing SCVs.
Hey, there's Marines running around, but they're not almost killing SCVs.
They may kill SCVs in the near future. Look at this. Both players actually really going for about the same build. Combat shield started for both of them. And that's really not that surprising to me, honestly. They both have very similar styles of playing TVT, and DDE moving out with his Marines as well. QXC pulling back just a little bit. Looks like DDE barely catching that one Marine on the glimpse of the edge of the vision here, but that could have easily just been a scouting Marine, in his mind as well. He may not necessarily know that QXC has another large group of Marines. Oh, except for now, I think he might have seen him.
Right, and now we do have a market difference as, QXC has to defend now as DDE looked like he was going to force his way up the ramp for a second, but DDE ended up going for a much, much faster factory. His is actually just about to finish up. QXC, on the other hand, prioritizing his engineering bay and starting +1 right away. So that's where the real difference is going to be. It looks like DDE is going to be much quicker to medevacs, but QXC is going to have +1 done quite a bit faster than his opponent.
Yeah, and those little things do make a big difference when it comes to TVT, Marine versus Marine. Obviously, the side that has +1s, if both have combat shields, is going to come out ahead in a big way here, too. But the medevacs that DDE is going to have just slightly faster may be quite helpful in that regard as well. Yeah, QXC going for stim as well before going for anything like a starport or medevacs or anything to kind of heal those Marines, just trying to have a really, really strong army early on. So if DDE runs into him with an army with medevacs and less upgrades, if we see kind of a fight come up in the next couple minutes here, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be upgrades and stim versus medevacs. Although, DDE getting those upgrades a little bit later. And I mean, at this point, you wouldn't really expect to see a lot of fights before these upgrades finish, but if they were to happen, the player with medevacs generally comes out on top. Well,
DDE, as we were talking about, he's about 50 seconds slower on his +1. He's about 10 seconds slower on his stim pack, but of course, his first 2 medevacs are already on the way. QXC just going to flip over that starport onto that reactor here in just a bit, but otherwise, super heavy Marine compositions for both these guys.
Yep.
No third base scout quite yet for either of these gentlemen either.
A lot of TVT is kind of looking like TV's excuse me, wow, TVZ does lately. Oh, is that 4 on gas? Whoops,
5.
A little bit of a mistake. Ooh, 5 on gas for QXC. That's actually very inefficient. Hopefully he'll notice that and move a couple SCVs off. But what I was saying is that just like in TVZ, a lot of TVT these days has been starting out with a lot of Marines early on and maybe a couple of medevacs and then moving into tank production a little bit later in the game than we used to see. Before in TVT, a lot of what it was just I'm going to make Marines and tanks and then I'm going to go out and attack, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a lot of Marine versus Marine, a lot of positioning, a lot of little counterattacks, and then moving into the tanks in the later stages of the game. But it's kind of weird. I mean, apart from a couple specific Terran players, we don't really see a lot of mech or bio in TVT anymore, which used to be, so prevalent. Now it's pretty rare.
All right. Well, it looks like QXC was preparing for drops as he had a few Marines off to the left-hand side, knowing that he had gone for that engineering bay first. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's sad, too, because I think the mech TVTs were some of the most entertaining and fun to watch as well, especially the ones that got to the end.
Too.
That's a fact. Yeah. But some of the ones that got to the end where you had one meching player who was using, everything at his disposal, hurling it at his opponent. Then you had the other guy who was going down the bio path, then went into nukes at the end to try and push back siege tanks. Made for a
Seeker
very
missile.
Dynamic, fun. Yeah, well, always Seeker missile.
Oh, yeah, tons of fun. And nice positioning with that Marine there. He does see that drop coming in, and he's able to respond quickly enough. QXC not able to get in and do any damage there. So DDE always very aware of his surroundings, aware of the map. QXC, though, has Marines in a good position in the lower left part of his main as well, just in case DDE decides to try any dropping, too. So both of these players overall just fairly well defended in a pretty good position. DDE, though, moving out on the map with his first push.
Wow, that's a pretty heavy stim there.
I think he was trying to catch the medevacs that are not there.
Yeah, unfortunately not. So, looks like QXC unfortunately going to get a couple of these Marines blasted to bits. So, taking a look at the units tab there, QXC's invested in his economy a little bit more, up by 8 workers, but he's down just a bit in terms of tech. Doesn't have near the medevac counts out there. It's a little bit lower on his siege tank count as well. So those are the real differences. Looks like QXC with a few more Marines, a few less heavy offensive units, but a little bit better economy at this point.
Yeah, the idea behind what QXC is doing is, to get those upgrades a little bit quicker and then take advantage of that. No. But this game, wow, still 5 guys in gas there. But this game, QXC really hasn't been able to take advantage of that. And because of that, he's a little bit behind, although a drop like this could certainly help.
That's right, and we'll see if DDE decides to just keep pushing out, and indeed he is getting himself set up near the watchtower, but he's kind of letting QXC do whatever he wants.
DDE. Oh, it's a shooting gallery, and the SCVs are not doing well, but DDE counterattacking as well. Does he have enough, though?
I'm not sure if he does or not. His tanks are so far back, they just weren't being used.
DDE making a huge, huge mistake in that engagement. He barely beats the army, but he killed it so inefficiently. Yeah, he's just not going to be able to capitalize on this.
All right. Well, he
Whoa!
just blasted that tank to bits. There was a lot of units that
Wow.
were clumped up there at the end, so DDE going to be able to push up a little bit, but QXC still just continuing to do damage inside of his opponent's base. How many workers have been lost? 27! He's up 23 workers to 58 at the moment. He already had a worker advantage going into that engagement, and now it's just kind of been a little bit exacerbated.
Yeah, I got to say, DDE with a bit of sloppiness in this game. I mean, he didn't really prepare himself adequately for that drop. He didn't respond to it well. And then the attack that kind of happened at the same time just wasn't terribly well executed. Now, there was probably some distraction involved in that, a reason why things didn't go as well as they maybe should have. But the result is the same. DDE is very far behind at this point.
That's right. So QXC up by about 40 supply. All of that essentially in workers. DDE and QXC have equivalent armies right now. A few more Marines, of course, for QXC. A few less medevacs and tanks for him, though, as well. But DDE is going to find it so hard to restart this army, to continue to produce everything and match his opponent's production. In fact, taking a look around, does he have a third command center? I'm not sure. Looks like a big engagement coming up at the top, though. DDE trying to siege himself up, but he just doesn't have enough. Loses his entire army.
Yeah, that is going to be really, really tough to recover from. QXC in a great spot right now. He's going to be able to take that third base, no problem. He's also getting 2-2 on the way. I don't know if DDE has gotten his yet. I don't believe he has, but
let me check.
Could be wrong. Let me see. Yeah, 1-1 still. So DDE a little bit behind on the upgrades. At the same time, QXC actually going for +2 tank weapons already. So it's going to be tough. I mean, DDE is going to need to pretty much get some miracle drops to be able to get back into this game at this point.
And he's certainly going to try, but QXC knows that that is a possibility.
Yep.
He's stationed units around waiting for that. Medevacs are off to the right, and he may have been able to see them, and indeed he has, already running back his forces now. So this drop is really not going to get a lot done, unfortunately, for DDE.
Yep, has to run away immediately. And so what DDE can do, well, he does have that fake drop as well. Doesn't lose a medevac. That is kind of nice.
Right.
But he doesn't really do anything with it either as well. Came in a little bit late. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, you want to send the fake drop in first. QXC still thinks those have Marines in them, and it looks like he's going to probably get them anyway. But if you're going to do something like that, you want that to hit first so that you can distract them and then move in to kill the third. But
that's right.
DDE, a little bit of miscontrol there as well, and QXC kind of continues to stay dominant in this game. DDE needs to kind of sit back, play turtley. He needs to play defensive and try to just kind of wait it out, catch up on upgrades, and maybe try things, because these kinds of attacks, just not working. GG!
All right, and Nada was
QXC.
specking that game, but QXC does take game number 1 for complexity.
Yeah.
What to set them up on now.
Yep, and I mean, what can you say? QXC just kind of outplaying DDE in that game. He